Hello, this is Thomasboi, and here is Season 9. I'm gonna be ranking Season 9 this time. Wow, can't believe I'm going this far. Okay, let's start off. First, seeing the oil painting is a really good start to Season 9. Percy is in character, the three strikes formula is done right. This episode gets an A+. Thomas and the Rainbow is my favorite Thomas episodes, to be honest. It even got a BAFTA award. Wow, that's nice. I give this episode an A+. I even especially love the ending. Molly's Special is another one of my... This is one of my favorite episodes of Season 9. Molly is a very interesting engine character. I like her yellow paint and her design is unique. And Thomas helping her out is sweet. I love it. I give this episode an A+. Gordon is another amazing episode. I think Gordon's crash is amusing. And it's very good. And I like the moral of the story. To get respect, you need to earn respect, not ask for it. This episode also gets an A. Thomas's milkshake model is a bland, I'd say a bland okay episode. Thomas rushing around with the milk churns is silly. But it was Emily's snootiness that started the whole mess in the first place anyway. Although I like this episode because it teaches kids how to make butter, how to turn butter into milk. This episode gets an A B plus. Mighty Mac is another great episode. Mighty Mac is an interesting character and the unique inspiration from the little giant concept that the production crew did in season 6. Mighty Mac really put in some strong effort, even some strong muscle, even when they pushed the rocks out of the way. Even they worked together to push the rocks out of the way with all their strength. Yeah, they really put some muscle power for the narrow gauge engines. This episode gets an A+. Thomas and the Birthday Picnic is an okay episode, but not really that much of the story. It's just bland. It's just bland. Oh, did you also know this is the first season? Season 9 is the first season of Sharon Miller to be the head writer of the series, and some of the series in season 9 were pretty good, but until season 10, it just got worse. But anyway, Thomas and the Birthday Picnic is an okay and pretty bland episode, basic story. I like Sir Tom Pad's mother. And the whistling the Happy Birthday to You song is unique. So this episode gets a B+. Tuneful Toots is another alright episode. It's not great or anything, but I do like the music they use that Robert Hartshorn used for the narrow gauge engines. And even though it's all brassy instruments and stuff, it's not all that bad. Although Rusty being irresponsible is out of character for him. They didn't have to do that, but yeah. I mean, whatever. This episode gets a C+. Thomas in the Toy Shop is another good episode with a Thomas and Henry dynamic. Finally, a story focusing on Thomas and Henry. This is nice change. Anyway, I like this episode, but There's one problem with this episode that I find weird. Like, why did they turn Neffert Station's why did Neffert Station's bookshop become a toy shop for some reason? Couldn't they just build it near a station or something? Or somewhere else on the island? I mean, the whole island is big. You could have just put it anywhere else. I mean, whatever. A plus. Renaissance and the Dinosaur is a bad episode. Renaissance and Scarloy are completely out of character in this whole episode. If there's one thing I like about this episode, it's the dinosaur skeleton, which is very cool. Oh, and I like the music too, but still, this doesn't save this episode from being bad. F plus. Thomas and the New Engine is another one of my favorite episodes. Neville is an interesting engine, not only from personality, but design. His design is really unique. I like he's based on a Southern Railways Q1 class, and that's very interesting. Oh, and did you know that the Southern Railway Q1s are based on the Ugly Duck? They're nicknamed the Ugly Ducklings. Yeah, funny one. I know. A plus. Toby Feels Left Out is a good Toby episode for once. Toby doing something silly. Toby's a little silly, but he makes up for that type by working hard. Yeah, a really good episode, I must say. I give this episode a B plus. Thomas Tries His Best is another favorite Thomas episode of mine. I like the theme from the beginning to end. Oh, and when Thomas was chasing Gordon. This episode gets an A plus. The Magic Lamp is one of my favorites of the narrow gauge episodes in this season. Peter Sam's the main character, and I like the story of Proteus is an interesting concept for this story. Well, although there's not that much to Proteus in general, besides his magic lamp urban legend is interesting enough. But, well, overall, it's just my favorite. A plus. Thomas and the Statue is another good Thomas episode, featuring Thomas and his good persona, finally. I have nothing much to say about this episode. Overall, the statue is nice in the end, although it's just average. This episode gets an A plus. Henry and the Flagpole is an okay Henry episode. Henry's nature is really good in this episode, and yeah, it's just okay. I give this episode a C plus. Emily Knows Best is alright, I suppose. At least Toby's in character in this episode too. Finally, yeah, I like how he just tells Emily off about what being a queen is all about, and he's just laughing at Emily, saying that Emily just knows best. Yeah, so like, still, I give this episode a D plus. Oh, and I also like Mavis in this he had a little small speaking role in this episode. Thomas's Day Off is another favorite Thomas episode of mine. Another one of Sharon Miller's best episodes written, besides The Magic Lamp. Dennis has a really interesting design And Sharon Miller really captured Dennis's laziness so well in this episode. Although the concept of an engine having a day off is silly, if I had to be honest. Still, this doesn't stop it from being such a good episode with a new concept of Dennis. The only problem with Dennis is this is his only role in this episode, and he doesn't appear again, and besides just making a cameo in The Great Discovery. I was like, what? That's crazy. And then in the CGI series, he's replaced by Norman. For what? Norman's just another toy for a hit to promote. They could have just brought Dennis back and Dave the Diesels, but, well, they originally were going to bring Dennis back, but they just decided to bring a few new toy characters just for that movie. That's just crazy. A plus, anyway. Thomas's New Trucks is a funny episode, in my opinion. Thomas and James's dynamic is pretty good in this episode, and yeah, I just like this episode. I like Thomas and James's crashes. Thomas getting crushed by coal, and James getting smashed by melons. James's accident in the end was funny, and I like Michael Brandon's truck's laughter. A plus for this episode. Duncan in the Old Mine is another one of my favorite episodes of season 9. It's nice to see Duncan again, and we see an adventurous side of him. Besides that, he's pretty good in this episode. Rusty's in character. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Scarlowe was in character in The Magic Layout, too. Anyway, this episode gets an A+. Oh, and the mindsets are really very good. Oh, and I like how Duncan fought his way out of the mine. Bold and Brave is a bland and good episode. Although the story is basic, Thomas is pretty good in this episode. And I think it was Bill or Ben. Yeah, at least one of the twins were just without one another. Whatever. This episode gets a B plus. Scarlowe the Brave is a really dumb episode. I used to love this episode, and now I hate it. Scarlowe is out of character, he's silly and dumb, and I just don't care for this episode. Ugh. Whatever. F plus. But the crash is great, though. Saving Edward is alright. It's an okay episode. I love this episode because Thomas said trying to help Edward is nice. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, okay. Whatever. This episode is just okay. C plus. Thomas and the Golden Eagle is a good episode. Thomas and Percy are good in character. I like that their friendship is really expanded upon, and it's just a good concept, and I like the ending. Nice one, Abby Grant. This episode gets an A+. Keeping Up with James is another one of my favorite James episodes, and then we feature Edward. Yeah. I think Edward's completely in character in this episode, and James's crash in the snow was real good. So I just can't pass this off as a good episode. A+ here. Flower Power is another one of my favorite season 9 episodes. First of all, the Thomas and Diesel dynamic is really funny, better than Don't Go Back, which I shouldn't spoil until my season 12 ranking video. Anyway, not much to say, but this is a good episode. A spooky one episode of that. Thomas getting covered in flour turned into a ghost to scare Diesel was a good concept, and Diesel screaming away like a little baby. Oh, and I like Michael Brandon's line as Thomas came into the flower mill, which the top of his head was funny. He was like, "Oh, is a ghost gonna get me?" That was funny. This episode gets an A plus.